Good evening, everybody. I'm Gabriele Berruti. I am a researcher of the University of Ferrara. My field of study is the user analysis with a particular focus on the Middle and Lower Paleolithic industry. Today, I want to present you my last work. The title of this work is To the Time, and the aim of this work is try to reconstruct the economic change over the time in a Middle Paleolithic site. When you start to write a paper, because this is a paper was already published, you must have in your mind a question. And the question is possible to reconstruct the economy in a Paleolithic site over the time? After this, you must have in your mind an objective, an answer. And the answer in this case is, okay, I try to make the reconstruction through the user analysis. After this, you need a case of study, because you can apply your question and your answer to a case of study. In this case, we study the Ciota Ciara Cave. It's very important that I am a specialist in the user analysis, but to give an answer at this important question, I need data from other study. For example, paleontology, micropaleontology, geoarchaeology, lithic technology, and similar things. Now we can start to speak about the Ciota Ciara. Ciota Ciara is a very important Middle Paleolithic site in the northwest of Italy, in the region of Piedmont. It's located on the slope of Monte Venera, around 600 meters on the level sea, near the city of Borgo Sesia. It's very important Middle Paleolithic site because it's the only Middle Paleolithic site in the area, in the region. You see the region in black in the map of Italy, and was excavated. The first excavation in the Ciota Ciara started in the second half of the last century. But since 2009, the University of Ferrara, under the direction of Marta Azzarello, started to make a scientific excavation in the lateral area of the Ciota Ciara. During these 15 years, we found a 2 metric thick sequence with 3 stratigraphic units full of archaeological material linked to Middle Paleolithic occupation. The 3 used stratigraphic units are 13, 14, and 15. And now I can say you that the chronology of the Ciota Ciara is more or less in the second half of the Middle Pleistocene. In the Ciota Ciara, we found a lot of fauna remains. The association of this fauna of this animal are not give us the possibility to have a clear chronological reference, but only is the second half of the Middle Pleistocene. Here you can see a lot of different pictures with the picture of the animal and the scientific name downstairs. Near the name, there is the circle of different color with a number inside that indicate the provenance of the fossil remains. The Ciota Ciara is a cave full of bears' bones, because the cave was used for a lot of years from the Ursus Peleus and Ursus Actual for the hibernation, the winter hibernation. And after the winter, the oldest animal died inside the cave. And for this motivation, the 90% of the fauna remains that we found in the cave are Ursus remains. But with the help of the study of the micro-mammal, we have the possibility to recreate the landscape around the cave. And also to understand, discover the difference between the current temperature and the temperature in the past time. Here on the left, you can see the graph give us the average temperature in the unit 13 and the unit 14, and downstairs you can see the precipitation in the unit 13 and the unit 14. If you see on the right, you can see the three different stratigraphical units, 13, 14, and 15. In the second column, you can see the landscape. Start from the landscape, temperate landscape with the forest. And in the unit 14, we have a degradation of the climate from the temperate forest to a colder period. In the unit 15, we have a very cold hard climate. In the last column, we can see the different quantity of fauna remains that we found in the different stratigraphic unit. The bear indicate the carnivore, and the deer the herbivore. More or less, the herbivore, the presence of herbivore is more or less linked to presence of human activity, and the carnivore are more or less present after a normal presence of a bear during the winter. Also, there is also herbivore bone that arrive from activity of hunting by other carnivores. Return to the chronology of the Ciota Ciara for the atrial part, because today we spoke only about the atrial part. We have only three dates. Uranium thorium date come from three different herbivore teeth from the US 14. And all of these three teeth give us a date around 300,000 years ago. That we know that the unit 13 is younger than 300,000, and the unit 15 is older than 300,000 years ago. It's the only date that we have for this area of the cave. Another thing is the lithic industry. The lithic industry of the Ciota Ciara is mainly made in vein quartz that can collected in near the cave, less than 1 kilometer from the cave. The raw material arrive more or less in the cave in form of pebbles, and for the vein quartz arriving from pebble and are used as fracking with three different methods: débitage, SSD, discoid, and Levallois. For the discoid and Levallois, the Neanderthal that live in the Ciota Ciara start from a pebble that have the shape linked to the start of the knapping activity. For the polygonal block are attested only the SSDA method. But it's very important that the Neanderthal and the Ciota Ciara have the possibility to use this raw material, because the vein quartz is not a very good raw material, but it's abundant near the cave. And in all the three different stratigraphic units, we collect more or less 7,000 artifacts, and the 71% of these artifacts are made in vein quartz. But we have a lot of different other material, local and alloctons. For the local material, we have the spongolite, that is a very, very bad quality chert found in the surrounding of the Ciota Ciara. But for the alloctons raw material, we have radiolarite and rhyolite, and also gray chert. And from the rhyolite, we can have the possibility to find this to the other side of the valley, in the purple area in the imaging. But for the radiolarite, we have the possibility we found the outcrops, and are more or less 30 kilometers from the Ciota Ciara Cave. This is very important because in all the Ciota Ciara, in all these three different stratigraphical units, we see more or less the same technological complex. they use more or less the raw material in the same way, SSDA, Levallois, and Discord. But we have an important difference in the percentage of the presence of alloctonous raw material. Because in the three different stratigraphical units, we have three different quantity of alloctonous raw material. It's the only variable that is possible to see in the lithic industry. Now I explain you my work. Two words about the user analysis. For the user analysis, we use microscope to see the traces on the edge of the instrument, and I use for this study three different microscopes: stereo microscope that are possible with an enlargement between 8 to 35%, a metallographic microscope with an enlargement between 16 to 500%, and also a digital microscope. The digital microscope and the stereo microscope was used to see a particular type of traces that in user analysis was called macro traces. The broken of the edge. The metallographic microscope was used to understand to see a particular type of traces called polytool. And to see this kind of traces, you must need more enlargement. Only to give you an idea, with stereo microscope and digital microscope, it's possible to see macro traces, and with these traces, it's possible to understand the direction of the movement do with this with the tool, and the hardness of the material worked. Hard, medium hard, soft, or medium soft. With the metallographic microscope, when you have the possibility to see the polish, you can understand also the particular material worked. For example, bone, meat, wood, and similar things. A study of user analysis starts with the creation of an experimental collection, because the basis of the user analysis is if you have the traces made now on an instrument in a lithic instrument, you can see the same traces in the archaeological lithic instrument. And when you start to study user analysis, you start to make a comparison collection, study the experimental collection. In the second picture, you can see age of a flint flake before and after the use. It's the same flake, and you see there is a big difference between the two images. And after, you can start to study the archaeological find and the archaeological material. For the Ciota Ciara, I must make two different experimental collections, one in flint and another one in vein quartz. Now we can start to speak about the three different stratigraphical units. For the stratigraphical unit 13, we found a lot of traces linked only on two different activities: woodworking and butchering. Also, we have also a clue that in this layer there is also traces of haunting, because in this big complex convergent scraper on the point there is an impact fracture, a fracture that occur on the instrument when it was used for hit a target. And in this case, you can see on the left, we have only work of wood and butchering or hunting activity. For this, I put only a piece of meat. The unit 14 is the more complex stratigraphic unit, is the stratigraphic unit with more alloctonous raw material and with a more differentiated type of traces found. Because in this stratigraphic unit, we found traces linked to the work of different raw material that give us the clue that in this stratigraphic units was make a very complex different type of activity, because we have traces of woodworking, traces of work on bones or meat, but also traces of working of fresh and dry skin, and also traces of work of not woody plant, for example, grass or similar things. At last, for the unit 15, we have a lot of traces, but all of these traces are linked with the butchering activity. We don't have traces of woodworking, we don't have traces of skin working, we don't have traces of not woody plant activity, but only with traces with the with the butchering. At the end, put all together this date and put this date with the data that arrive from other study, we can create this scheme. From the unit 15, we have a temperate climate, not a big presence of herbivore. The lithic industry was made at the 99% in local raw material, and we have traces linked to woodworking and butchering, and also a singular traces linked to the hunting. In this case, our interpretation is okay, for the unit 13 is the result of a lot of occupation, short duration, that during this occupation the cave was used for hunting camp. For the unit 14, we have a lot of difference. We see a degradation of the landscape and the climate. You can see there is a less percentage of carnivore and more herbivore. The use of local raw material decreases, only of 2%, but this is important. And we can see a lot of different activity. Butchering activity, woodworking, not wood plant working, and also hide working. The hide working is very important because it's a long-lasting time activity. For this, for all of this motivation, for us, the stratigraphic unit 14 is linked to our use of the cave as a base camp. At the end, in the unit 15, in a very cold period, the carnivore increase, the presence of herbivore decrease, also the presence of local raw material increase again, and we have only traces of butchering activity. In this case, our interpretation is the Ciota Ciara was used only for butchering activity, probably along the foraging routes of the Neanderthal groups. Because also in the unit 15, we have raw material that arrive from 30 kilometers from the site. And probably in this case, the Ciota Ciara is only a point are in the part that the Neanderthal use during the year. With this, I finish, and thank you for your